Okay, folks, this is the Putin interview where Nick of RBN is covering. This is from last week. I'm gonna cover some of it. I'm gonna show some of it here, and what he breaks down what Putin's saying, and he breaks down the kind of propaganda that the U.S. is saying about Putin, about the Ukraine, and then the media. About, I don't fully agree with Nick, but he's breaking down the propaganda the West is doing. The propaganda on both sides, but if you listen to the media, it seems like Putin's the whole thing is a propaganda. This interview, according to them, I mean, not necessarily. In the West, there are other media, mainstream media. They don't talk about the peace agreements, and that that were tried. I mean, nowadays you don't hear about that. And the Minsk agreement and everything, all those and the peace agreement before the war. I didn't really realize that. And Boris Yeltsin, Prime Minister of former Prime Minister of the UK, like killed that agreement, peace agreement, all kinds of stuff, and it's really amazing. Like some stuff you won't hear. Like the media's, they're lying to the people, American people, the media, American media, and some of the Western media. But I'm not so I'm not shilling for Putin on this thing, saying that there's bad guys on all sides. Seems like it. I'm not about the coup in Ukraine too. Nobody talks about that anymore. 2014. I mean, anyways, I'll just get right to it. I'm not gonna play the whole interview. I mean the whole video. I'm not gonna play, but just a few. Maybe I might go an hour. We'll see.
And not being as aggressive against the West as he should have been. And now this is why he's forming this coalition to resist U.S. imperialism, because he's been burned by the West many times. If you watch Putin speak in his interviews, he talks about this all the time. How he was too trusting to Western officials and their promises. This has been the problem with Russia since the fall of the Soviet Union. He explains how they promised that they wouldn't expand NATO an inch farther from Berlin, something they believed, and then the West betrayed them, which led Russia to having this aggressive stance against the United States, which makes sense considering all the lies that they've been told by the United States. So this is something they won't mention because the corporate media and the establishment will have you believe that Putin had this unnecessarily aggressive position and posture against the West because he's a conqueror. But let's move on because we have a lot to cover. So I'm gonna try to get my commentary on this one.
He's a conqueror.
A little bit short.
It's funny. He's a conqueror. Sounds ridiculous.
But this is one of the main reasons why you've seen the meltdown in the West regarding this interview. because apparently no one in the West is interested in the Nord Stream pipeline. I have a hotspot video coming out here very soon where Sweden did an investigation, what they called a very extensive investigation into the Nord Stream pipeline bombing. And they know exactly who did it. But guess what? They're not going to tell you. They say they can't tell you because they don't have the jurisdiction to go after the state actor that they know did the Nord Stream pipeline bombing. Why wouldn't they tell us? Do you guys truly believe that if Vladimir Putin did bomb the Nord Stream pipeline, that Sweden wouldn't tell us? Everyone in the world know who blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, as exposed by Seymour Hersh. You know, the person who exposed Abu Ghraib, the same person who exposed the My Lai massacre. This person exposed the Nord Stream pipeline bombing, and every single person in Western media ignored it. The people who didn't ignore it pretend that Seymour Hersh, one of the most legendary reporters and most respected reporters of our time, is just some blogger. They're like, oh, some blogger. Anyway, let's get to the Nord Stream answer. The best thing about this interview will be the liberals be kicking and screaming about it, but they have to be careful in showing the interview because they may accidentally tell the truth to their audience, a truth that they can't even dispute. Let's watch this.
You for sure. I was busy that day.
If you guys see, he said, Tucker asked Putin who blew up Nord Stream. He said, you did.
I did not blow up Nord Stream. Thank you, though.
У вас лично, может быть, есть алиби, у вас лично.
You personally may have an alibi, but the CIA has no such alibi. Do you have evidence?
Everyone knows that the United States did this. You even had Ukraine officials that was thanking the United States for doing what they did and blowing the Nord Stream pipeline. Germany was handed the information by Sweden, and they're not doing anything. Do you guys know after the Nord Stream pipeline bombing, sanction the United States was trending in Germany. Sanction the United States was trending in Germany because everyone in Germany knew who did it. Meanwhile, the West had to play dumb. There's so many gems and nuggets in this interview. And this is why Putin is so based. Because in this interview, Putin called out Tucker quite a few times.
Yeah.
One of the most important parts when we get to this here very
Interesting.
soon is how Putin calls out Tucker for his bullshit regarding China. Now, a lot of right wingers, especially since this interview is launching, have been praising Putin. They said this is what we need in the United States. They love Putin, but at the same time,
yeah, because remember, because most of that is Putin was like Trump, even Putin was friendly with Trump, so that's most of that. That's why they're with that's why they're chummy with him. They're chummy with that's why they like Putin. Cause most of them were because Trump liked them. And Trump was so really they were like sucking up to Trump. I mean that's why they like Putin. You know, if Trump was against Putin, like from the beginning, you think they would have liked Putin? And most likely not. And I'm not gonna go into the whole Trump and Putin thing. You know that Putin wanted Trump to win, but anyways, but it wasn't. But the whole RussiaGate thing wasn't a I'm going into RussiaGate now, but there wasn't a correlation of it. Like Putin favored Trump, but there wasn't any like correlation to it. Like he didn't really help him win the election 2016. No, that was not the reason why he won. But he helped him, but it there wasn't any correlation between, like, on this, like, Trump wasn't, well, he was aware of it, but he wasn't it wasn't like a big like scheme or plan. It wasn't like a big conspiracy. I mean, to help Trump win. But anyways, I'm not gonna go back into they call it so-called Russiagate. Well, anyways.
These wingers hate China, and they are having a hard time reconciling their newfound love with Putin with their hatred of China, because Putin viewed China as an ally. He viewed Putin. They have a no limits partnership between Russia and China. But as I explained many times before, Tucker Carlson, he may be anti-war, but he's not anti-imperialist. He's roots for the U.S. empire. He criticizes U.S. foreign policy because he believes that there are ineffective ways of growing the empire. But he 100% want to fight any country that threatens U.S. influence. He has been very open about it.
Mm-hmm.
So the right wing is about to go through some things, my friends, because now they got to reconcile their love with Putin with their hatred of China, when Putin loves and respects China, and they view China as a very important part of resisting U.S. influence. So this is, I'll play the clip. I'll let you guys, and I'll break down.
Explain why you think that happened, except to say that the West fears a strong Russia, but we have a strong China. The West does not seem very afraid of. What about Russia do you think convinced policymakers they had to take it down?
So Tucker says one of the dumbest things you can possibly say. And this is why I'm not a fan of Tucker Carlson, because he's been doing this thing where he demonized China. He also does this thing where he pretends the Democratic Party are secret agents of China. Even though Biden has been extremely hawkish on China, he engaged.
See, that's why he's not a serious. Tucker Carlson's not a serious journalist. Tucker Carlson's garbage. I mean, the only thing good about him is doing a interview with Putin. But I mean, this guy's not a journalist. I mean, definitely he's not a serious journalist. And when he's on Fox News, he did all kinds of garbage and terrible segments on migrants, illegal immigrants, all kinds of garbage, and the great replacement theory, all that garbage. He spot on Fox News. And stuff that he doesn't really believe, actually. He doesn't really like Trump in a way. There's a court case, and he had to, when they were being sued by the Fox News was being sued, and I think he had to admit that he admits some stuff. I think for the court case. I think it was on I think the man in the courts. I think it was in the court, right? In the lawsuit. I think he admitted some stuff, and like he didn't really believe, and he's not really a big supporter of Trump. I mean, in a way, he wasn't anyways. So some stuff is bullshit. He's just some of the stuff he does is just act. I mean, and definitely he's not a populist. God. Yeah, and Nick is right. He's more like an imperialist, and he's terrible anyways. He's not a nice guy.
in financial and economic war policies that even the Trump administration didn't engage in. You had Biden sending weapons to Taiwan, separatist movements. You had Biden sending nuclear submarines to Australia and Japan in order to antagonize China. The Biden administration.
See, in other words, Biden continues Trump's China policy, which he said that when he got elected, he was gonna kind of dismantle change the policy, be more like friendly to China, get rid of the tariffs, end the trade war. But he really continued the policy, and even in some cases, even worse.
Has been extremely anti-China. Meanwhile, Tucker Carlson pretends Democrats are pro-China. I'm gonna ask you guys this question: why does Tucker Carlson do this? I know this all the time. I notice this all the time where Tucker pretends Democrats pro-China when they are filled with anti-China hawks like Nancy Pelosi. So Tucker,
I know this. I can answer your question. But these could just portray them as just attacking the liberals. That's what this is all about. This is partisan politics. This is all like attacking the libs. Portray the liberals as commies or communists, like the so-called liberals, even the conservative Democrats, as communists. They portray them as even if they're a little bit left of center. That's what the Republican Party is now. If you're a little bit left of center, that means you're a commie or communist. They call you a communist. I mean, see, if you're a liberal Democrat, I mean, if you're liberal, or moderate conservative, you're not really a conservative anymore. You're like Democrat, which entails you're radical. You're part of the radical left. Trump calls you the radical left. He calls Democrats. They're not just Tucker Carlson. All the Republicans. I mean, because they've gone so far to the right that you're labeled even if you're liberal, just a moderate, like mainstream liberal, which is a moderate really. Then you're a socialist or even a communist.
Ask Putin this question, and Putin is going to dismantle him for it. Because Tucker says, for some reason, people are afraid of a strong Russia, but they're not afraid of a strong China, implying that there's an agent, a part of our bourgeoisie that is pro-China. This is the lazy analysis that I view. This is why I don't take Tucker seriously. I can give him props when you do decent journalism like this, but I share my opinions on Tucker. He's here to confuse people.
Yeah.
He's here to confuse people. But once Putin swat down this point that the United States don't want a strong China.
Strong China, the West is not. You've never explained why you think that happened, except to say that the West fears a strong Russia, but we have a strong China, the West does not seem very afraid of. What about Russia do you think convinced policymakers they had to take it down?
The West is afraid of strong China more than it fears a strong Russia, because Russia has 150 million people and China has 1.5 billion population, and its economy is growing by leaps.
No, sorry, folks.
And balance, or 5% a year.
I'm
It
not
used
positive.
to be even more. But that's enough for China. As Bismarck once put it, potentials are the most important. China's potential is enormous. It is the biggest economy in the world today in terms of purchasing power parity
Like
and the
Cuba's
size of the economy. It has already.
Bro, look, he's blowing Tucker's mind right now because Tucker's narrative has been that China is this crazy authoritarian country that is failing their people. One of the reasons why I could never take him seriously. And here's Putin explaining to Tucker, like, bro, China is killing the fucking game right now. And the United States is afraid of them because of their population and their projections of growth. But I'll let it continue. Because look at his face. Putin is cooling Tucker on China right now.
Yeah. Oh, he looks weird. He has like a weird face. He's Tucker Carlson. Look at him, man. This guy is like, wow. Oh, I'm a serious journalist. Oh, yeah. Oh, man, this rap. Ooh, you really, okay. I'm a real serious journalist. Yeah, bullshit.
It has already overtaken the United States quite a long time ago, and it is growing at a rapid clip. Let's not talk about who is afraid of whom. Let's not reason in such terms. And let's get into the fact that after 1991, when Russia expected that it would be welcomed into the brotherly family of civilized nations, nothing like this happened. The trick is, I don't mean you personally when I say you. Of course, I'm talking about the United States. The promise was that NATO would not expand eastward. It happened 5 times. There were 5 waves of expansion. We tolerated all that. We were trying to persuade them. We were saying, please don't. We are as bourgeois now as you are. We are a market economy and there's no communist party power. Let's negotiate.
This is, oh my God, that's such an important point, fam. So, Putin is an anti-communist. And he explained many times in an interview he felt betrayed by the West because Russia was like, hey, yo, we are capitalists now. I thought you guys hated us when we were the Soviet Union, when we was a communist power. Then Putin saw aggressive United States despite the fact that they changed their ideology. So after they changed their ideology, the United States still hated Russia. So then Putin came to the conclusion, and he said this many times before, he thought the United States and the West hated them because of ideology. Now he realized he hated them because it was Russian. They hated them because they wouldn't bow to them. They hated them because there was a strong country that would not bow completely to U.S. influence. What Putin says here is already bowing to a sense. You had the West that was constantly lying about treaties, constantly betraying their word, constantly being aggressive against Russia, but Russia kept trying. They kept trying over and over and over again. And then finally they said, fuck it, so they invaded Ukraine. And they had enough. They had enough. But this is not the only time Putin smacks them down on China. You had, this exposes Tucker so much. And this interview, if you guys can tell, this interview was glorious, and I have been greatly enjoying the fallout from it. I am still unpacking it myself, because everyone assumed that Tucker Carlson and Putin would just be chummy and they would get along. That is absolutely not what happened. You had Tucker that had a plan to try to divide Russia from China because he's an op from the United States empire. When I watched this, I'm like, Tucker is definitely trying to plant seeds to separate Russia and China the same way that Vivek Ramaswamy believed he could in the most delusional fashion we ever seen. So if Vivek wanted to divide Russia and China, it would have went horribly, as you guys see in this interview, because Tucker Carlson constantly tried to demonize China, but Putin was not having this. Now look at this. This person, this tweet, big shout out to Dennis for sharing this clip. Possibly my favorite part of the Tucker Carlson interview was Putin. Putin shuts down the xenophobic fear-mongering about China taking over Russia. This is the talking point that came from Tucker Carlson, and people still believe that he's a friend of anti-imperialists. I would 100% concede, based on what I've seen, it seems like that Tucker Carlson is anti-war. He is anti-war based on what I've seen recently. But there's a difference between being anti-war and being anti-imperialist. How many times have I explained in my Tucker Carlson breakdowns that Tucker Carlson is not anti-imperialist, he's pro-imperialist. He's doing his job to try to separate Russia and China, just like Vivek Ramaswamy wants. They really think Putin is dumb enough to be convinced with this ridiculous logic. Now watch this.
I think it's a fair assessment. The question is what comes next, and maybe you trade one colonial power for another, much less sentimental and forgiving.
Implying that China is an imperial power. So here is Tucker Carlson warning Putin that, hey man, if you get too close to China, they may take you over. You don't want them to get too much power in BRICS. China is clearly trying to take over BRICS. Be afraid of China. You guys see how Tucker Carlson is not a serious person?
You all know that for a long, long time, folks. I mean, I guess Nick finally realized that now, I guess. Even the one time they praised Tucker Carlson. Somebody liked Tucker Carlson. I think like they show a lot of his clips on The Hill. They show a lot of his, they used to. They show when he was on Fox News. They show a lot of Tucker Carlson. And some stuff I don't know, they might have agreed with him. Maybe on the vaccine. I guess they show a lot of stuff on that. They had agreement with him. But I don't know, maybe on The Hill they show a lot of his clips. These unserious journalists. I mean, he did this information on whatever the shot. Anyways, a lot of this information. Anyways.
But this is exactly why I wanted to see this interview. All the people who assumed that they were just going to get along and agree with everyone were wrong. And now the right wing, who have a newfound love for Putin, they now have to reconcile their hatred with China, where Putin is an admirer of China. And watch this, he just completely destroys Tucker here.
I think it's a fair assessment. The question is what comes next, and maybe you trade one colonial power for another, much less sentimental and forgiving colonial power. I mean, is the BRICS, for example, in danger of being completely dominated by the Chinese economy?
He said BRICS is in danger. In danger. Not that they mutually benefit. They're in danger of China economically dominating BRICS. Do you guys see the dumb shit that Tucker Carlson says all the time that I don't understand why people ignore? And Putin probably like, bro, what? I'll let you continue. I know you probably want to hear Putin's response.
Colonial power. I mean, is the BRICS, for example, in danger of being completely dominated by the Chinese economy? In a way that's not good for their sovereignty. Do you worry about that?
Especially, well, we have heard those boogeyman stories before. It is a boogeyman.
It doesn't
story.
make any sense.
We're neighbors with China. You cannot choose neighbors just as you cannot choose close relatives. We share a border of thousands.
It doesn't make any sense. So how would they BRICS be a threat? How would China would be a threat to the BRICS? I mean, how would that happen? So China's going to destroy their economies? That's what you're saying? I mean, I thought they were working. I think they're working with. Well, China's working with Russia. China's working with some of these countries. I mean, they're going to destroy their economy. Okay, how are they going to do that?
1,000 kilometers with them. This is number one. Second, we have a centuries-long history of coexistence. We're used to it. Third, China's foreign policy philosophy is not aggressive. Its idea is to always look for compromise, and we can see that. The next point is as follows. We are always told the same boogeyman story, and here it goes again.
You see, when you say we are told the same boogeyman story about China, here it goes again. At this point, Putin is rolling his eyes. He's like, man, I thought this guy was supposed to be better than this. He's repeating the same bullshit China boogeyman that we hear from Fox News, CNN, MSNBC. So, you gotta know China has dropped no bombs over the last 40 years. I think the United States.
Yeah, it's a joke, folks. That's why I'm laughing.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's like 47 bombs a day over 40 years. Barack Obama dropped like a bomb every like 22 seconds, something like that.
Wow.
Meanwhile, how many bombs China dropped in over the last 40 years? Don't worry, I'll wait. 0. That's why Putin he sees China fear-mongering. He don't understand it because he said China has a history of coexistence and trying to find other solutions to other problems. How does the United States solve every problem? We about to bomb some more children. I'm sorry, we had no excuse but to bomb children. That's how the United States bomb. That's how they solve every single problem in this country. But they want us to be afraid of China? I'll let it continue because this is glorious. This is a long interview, but I am showing you guys what I view as the most impactful and informing part of this interview from what I've seen in the clips I've seen on Twitter. And I think Tucker Carlson being smacked around on China.
And one thing is for sure, I'm not a friend of China either. I'm not shitting for China either. I'm just saying there's so much propaganda and anti-China sentiment going on. That's why you see a lot of started from Trump. You see a lot of anti Asian sentiment, like crimes against Asians. We see that in the last 5 years, or 3 years since the pandemic. That's from Trump, and he's a lot of anti-China sentiment. You know, China has they have problems with their it's a kind of authoritarian government, right? But Putin's authoritarian either. Putin's also he's an authoritarian, and he gets rid of journalists and his opponents. And the U.S. does terrible things too. We all know that. I mean, we all know that. They start coups. That's the U.S. does. And they get rid of certain people. So all these people, all these governments are bad. I mean, they're not saints. There's no real good guy, it seems. All these governments. So I'm not shilling for China. I'm not protecting. But they make it sound like China's way, but they go over hype. They've been hyped up. And Nick is right. He's saying that in another video, the other video I did. He said we should humanize our enemies. And he's right. We should. And the Bible says you love your enemies. Pray for your enemies. And the Most High said, and Jesus says that, love your enemies. And anyways, I want to go back to this.
It's probably the biggest story out of this interview. That, along with Putin's historical explanation about the Minsk Accord, I'm sure we have time for that. Excuse me, guys. Plan to try to get through all the clips. It's going to be a one-time stream. I have no idea how long it's going to be. But I definitely want to get through some things. But this part right here, extremely important. Let's continue.
China's foreign policy philosophy is not aggressive. Its idea is to always look for compromise. And we can see that. The next point is as follows. We are always told the same boogeyman story. And here it goes again. Through an euphemistic form, but it is still the same boogeyman story. The cooperation with China keeps increasing. The pace at which China's cooperation with Europe is growing is higher and greater than that of the growth of Chinese-Russian cooperation. Ask Europeans, aren't they afraid? They might be, I don't know. But they are still trying to access China's market at all costs, especially now that they are facing economic problems. Chinese businesses are also exploring the European market. Do Chinese businesses have small presence in the United States? Yes, the political decisions are such that they are trying to limit their cooperation with China. It is to your own detriment, Mr. Tucker, that you are limiting cooperation with China. You're hurting yourself.
You
What
hear
does
what
he
he
call
said?
him? He calls him your. He calls Tucker your. You, like he's a part of the. I guess he's a representative of the. Yeah, I guess Tucker is a representative of the U.S. So he. Well, no, it's not really, but he's just a. I mean, it's weird. I mean, it's not weird. he, he said you like he's part of, like he's a U.S. official. So you think he's like a Tucker's like a U.S. puppet, or I mean, doing propaganda for the U.S. So that's why he said you're your government. I guess he meant your government. Yeah, sure. Instead of saying your government, your in the translation, I guess, just saying that. Maybe I don't know.
He called out Tucker Carlson and Vivek Ramaswamy and these fake right-wing populists directly to their face. Look at and this is another thing that's devastating for the West. Is throughout the course of this interview, not only do you see how smart Putin is, you see that Putin has a very good sense of humor as well throughout the course of the interview. He's very intelligent, has great humor, and he makes these very funny points. You gotta see the facial expression he's used. This is why the Western media can't fuck with Putin. Putin dismantles these people easily, including Tucker Carlson. I won't play that point again. This point completely destroys every single right-wing fake populist like Vivek Ramaswamy and Tucker Carlson who spends their time demonizing China.
Yes, the political decisions are such that they are trying to limit their cooperation with China. It is to your own detriment, Mr. Tucker, that you are limiting cooperation with China. You're hurting yourself. It is a delicate matter, and there are no silver bullet solutions, just as it is with the dollar. So, before introducing any...
Look at Tucker's face. I don't know if... He probably didn't expect this. I don't know if he's really that delusional that he thought Putin would fall for this fucking easy to dispute anti-China propaganda. Putin destroyed this man. And you can almost see where Putin kind of realized, like, all right, this dude is not what Russian media hyped him to be. Because I'm going to show you guys the next clip where Putin calls out Tucker Carlson for wanting to join the CIA. You know the thing that me and Misty Winston, big shout out to Misty from TNT Radio. Me and Misty, like, do you guys know Tucker Carlson wanted to join the CIA? Anyone who wanted to join the CIA is kind of fucking shady. And Putin mentions that. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be the next clip.
Illegitimate sanctions. Illegitimate in terms of the Charter of the United Nations. One should think very carefully. For decision makers, this appears to be a problem.
Really well, that's a great point about Putin. I'm going to show this clip because as I said on Twitter, I said Putin clowning Tucker Carlson for wanting to join the CIA is one of the most underrated parts of the interview. And I would personally say it's probably one of my favorite moments of this year, early already. And this is why the West never shows Putin talking. I said that many times before. Because not only is Putin smart, he has a great sense of humor. Like I listen to a lot of Putin speeches. He does like round tables, these press conferences where he's just talking to people. He be riffing with people, and he would like have the entire crowd laughing. Like he's a politician. Mm-hmm. Like to be honest, like he's an actual skilled politician. He knows how to make people laugh. He knows how to get under the skin of people who are being aggressive against him. There's a reason why this guy has an 80% plus approval rating in Russia. Now, this is a longer clip where he's talking about the history, which is another reason why I want to show it.
You want to look that up, folks. But no, he's probably right though. 80% because of the war. I guess. But some saying that's not accurate. But I think more people support Putin than. And he's more people approved of his policies. I don't think they like the war, but they like Putin in power. in general. So more people approve him than disapprove him. But 80%, I don't know. Now 80%, at least 60%. I think he's around, at least. That might be the real number, 60%. Because the media, from their sources, they could prop that up. He does that's kind of like a propaganda thing. I don't know if that's really, when he says 80%, I don't know if that's really accurate. I don't know.
But listen to the beginning where Putin calls out Tucker Carlson for wanting to join the CIA.
As the Americans requested, Yanukovych did use neither the armed forces nor the police, yet the armed opposition committed a coup in Kiev. What is that supposed to mean? Who do you think you are? I wanted to ask the then U.S. leadership.
With the backing of whom?
With the backing of CIA, of course.
Mm-hmm.
The organization you wanted to join back in the day, as I understand.
Oh my God.
Fucking
That's
right.
sad. I never know that. So how do you these guys do opposition research on Tucker? Interested.
Posted. You know the organization you tried to join back in the day? I talked to Zoya. I wish I had Zoya on stream with me. Because Zoya, you guys know my dear sister Zoya, Zoya's Love, Zoya's Life. She speaks Russian, and she said if you actually heard the Russian version of this, it's like Putin roasted Tucker Carlson way harder. You guys want to hear that part again? He's like, yeah. And Tucker, like, who did this plot to overthrow the Ukrainian government? He like, the organization that you signed up with, the CIA boy? You little CIA boy? So, Putin is the head of state of one of the most powerful countries in the world. But he knew that Tucker Carlson was a CIA boy. That was something that Putin knew beforehand. Mm-hmm. How did he know that?
Yeah.
Did he look that up? Did he get a briefing about how Tucker Carlson wanted to be part of the CIA? Because there was a point that me and Misty Winston bring up all the time. Mm-hmm. Anyone who want to be part of the CIA is shady. I'm gonna play that part again because I think it's funny, and then they're gonna get into the history of it because this is the clip. Once again, big shout out to Hotspot. You guys should follow them. The actual clip is about how Putin explains the war in Ukraine is the result of what the CIA started in 2014. So I was watching this clip. Wow. I was watching what Hotspot's doing. You guys know Hotspot's killing Hotspot is killing the goddamn game. Yeah, Zoya does. Because Zoya told us, she told me that the Russian version is even spicier. So I'm taking her word for it with how Putin roasted him. The English translation doesn't do it justice. So I was watching this clip trying to see what Putin is saying about the CIA, and I heard that gem in the beginning. That's why I said, bro, why no one talking about the fact that Putin just fucking roasted Tucker Carlson to his face about joining the CIA? It's probably after he heard his bullshit opinions about China. You guys see that Putin knew about the fact that Tucker Carlson wanted to join the CIA, right? So that means Putin and his team did some sort of research into Tucker Carlson. Mm-hmm. If he knows that. That means he also must have saw the rhetoric that Tucker Carlson said about China, the country that he view as brothers. Mm-hmm. Russia has a very close relationship with China, so they probably seen what Tucker says about China, so Putin probably like, yeah, this motherfucker is CIA. He probably think like, I'm glad that Tucker gets the issue with Ukraine right, but this motherfucker is definitely CIA. If you hear that bullshit he's saying about China. So from what I've seen, this is why the meltdown over the Putin interview was ridiculous. Because I didn't see Putin having that much respect for Tucker. Especially after knowing Tucker's opinion about China, a country that he deeply respects. So this is a longer video. I'm going to let a lot more of this play because it's very educational. I just want you guys to see the beginning again. It's my favorite part of the interview where he calls out Tucker for being CIA. But I'm going to let a lot more of the video continue. Don't worry.
As the Americans requested, Yanukovych did use neither the armed forces nor the police, yet the armed opposition committed a coup in Kiev. What is that supposed to mean? Who do you think you are? I wanted to ask the then US leadership.
With the backing of whom?
With the backing of CIA, of course. The organization you wanted to join back in the day, as I understand. We should thank God they didn't let you in. Although, it is a serious organization.
Oh my God.
I understand. My former visit...
Oh, it's kind of laugh. I see why Nick laughed at it. He's kind of embarrassing there, man. He just embarrassed. Nick is right. He embarrassed Tucker Carlson.
vis-a-vis in the sense that I served in the first main directorate, Soviet Union's intelligence service. They have always been our opponents. A job is a job.
KGB.
Technically, they did everything right. They achieved their goal of changing the government. However, from political standpoint, it was a colossal mistake. Surely it was political leadership's miscalculation. They should have seen what it would evolve into.
Change the go stuff.
Come on, Internet, you can do it. But as you guys see here, this is another reason why they didn't want this interview to happen. I don't know why the hell is this screen freezing out. Let's see if this screen literally frozen. All right, cool. So I think the stream's still working. Let me refresh this. Fuck. I don't know why that video completely just broke down. I think they about to fucking hack my stream. We was worried that they're gonna censor the stream because of the Putin interview.
Large-scale military operation, then another one.
Before I let it continue, this is a longer clip, so I want a lot of this to play for you guys. But this is exactly why they didn't want this interview to happen. This interview is devastating for the West because for the first time, you're gonna have a very large amount of the Western audience. In fact, probably the entire world, because how big this interview is, that will hear the Russian narrative uncensored.
When they failed, they started to prepare the next one. All this against the background of military development of this territory and opening of NATO's doors. How could we not express concern over what was happening?
Yeah, well,
From our side, this would have been a culpable negligence. That's what it would have been. It's just that the US political leadership pushed us to the line we could not cross, because doing so could have ruined Russia itself.
I'm gonna let it continue, but man, this is so huge, man. You guys know how I feel about Tucker. I shit on Tucker, but this is real journalism that was dead. It doesn't matter how we feel about Tucker. The fact that he did this and gave Putin a platform to correct this, to correct the record is huge. I just explained with Garland Nixon on Tuesday, another banger, that we need to humanize our enemies. We need to change the culture of what it means to be anti-imperialist and anti-war. We need to stop normalizing soldiers dying in war. We need to stop normalizing parents sending their children out to die in war. And we also need to humanize our enemies. The Bernie left is completely ineffective, and they are empire puppets because they would claim they don't like war, but they believe everything that the government tells them about Putin. These same Bernie people, they call themselves socialists, but they also hate China. They believe every negative thing about China, these social democrats. They smear Venezuela. You have Bernie Sanders called Nicolas Maduro a tyrant for having the audacity of not allowing the United States to overthrow his government. Bernie Sanders called Nicolas Maduro a tyrant, and then they wonder why their anti-war plea falls on deaf ears. It's very important for us to humanize our enemies. I am not asking you guys to like Putin. I am not asking you guys to like Xi Jinping. But we must humanize our enemies because it undercuts the war propaganda. When you have the progressives, when you have Bernie Sanders, when you have all these people condemning Hamas, telling people that Hamas is evil, that undercuts the message that we should have a ceasefire against these people. You gotta know at RBN, we never condemn Hamas. I would never condemn a group of people fighting the most violent, genocidal, fascist regime commonplace for people to say that Putin wants to take over Ukraine. Democrats said we must fund the border bill that we call Trump racist for, because if we don't stop Putin in Ukraine, he then's going to go to Europe and take over Europe. It's one of the most insidious lies I ever heard in corporate media. Because Putin and the Russian government said many times before what this war is about. And he's going to explain this interview, but what denazification was, their ask was. They wanted a neutral Ukraine. They wanted Ukraine to recognize the independence of the Donbass region and many of these eastern Ukrainian regions that wanted to leave the fascist regime in Ukraine that overthrew a democratically elected government. Russia didn't want to take over these countries. They wanted to give them a referendum to become independent, and they wanted to promise that Ukraine would become a NATO country. But on every single Western media channel, they will tell you that Russia is on the path to conquest. They do that because they purposely misrepresent the enemy so you will hate them. It's the same reason, in the same way, they keep telling you that Hamas is an organization that hates Jewish people, even though Hamas leadership, including the Hamas chapter in 2017, said that their struggle has nothing to do with Jewish people. They say they do not hate Jewish.
Yeah. I'm not going to go into the Hamas thing. He goes into the Hamas-Israel thing. But I don't want to go into that. But I just want to focus in on Putin. So I'm going to forward this rant a little bit. Let's see.
Germany, Poland, and France arrived. They were the guarantor.
Let's see.
Wait, so that was
Negligence.
History lesson.
Besides, we could not.
History lesson. I went on a long rant, so I'll shut the fuck up for a while. I'll let you guys watch the end.
Thank you.
I'll go back a little bit.
Besides, we could not. How could we not express concern over what was happening? From our side, this would have been a culpable negligence. That's what it would have been. It's just that the US political leadership pushed us to the line we could not cross, because doing so could have ruined Russia itself. Besides, we could not leave our brothers in faith, in fact, a part of Russian people, in the face of this war machine.
what was that was 8 years before the current conflict started. So what was the trigger for you? What was the moment where you decided you had
I don't know. Why
to
would
do
he?
this?
Спровоцировал конфликт изначально.
Initially, it was the coup in Ukraine that provoked the conflict. By the way, back then the representatives of 3 European countries, Germany, Poland, and France, arrived. They were the guarantors of the signed agreement between the government of Yanukovych and the opposition. They signed it as guarantors. Despite that, the opposition committed a coup, and all these countries pretended that they didn't remember that they were guarantors of the peace.
This is exactly why.
So it was a peace deal. And it was ignored. It was a coup. They ignored it. So they ignored the peace deal.
The establishment did not want this interview to happen. How many propaganda reports have we done on this show? And whenever I show you guys clips of Morning Joe, Fox News, I see the comments. You guys cringe so hard like we do. It's unbelievable to see the news that we get in our country. This interview Tucker Carlson has done. Take every single thing Tucker Carlson has done, all his work aside. This one interview is more substantive than anything anyone in mainstream media has ever done. Sure, no, I know they're not our enemies, friends. I see you guys comment sometimes. They're not my enemy. I admire China in a lot of ways. They're not my enemies at all. I'm saying, when I say our enemies, I mean like the establishment, the enemies of the United States. You guys know I barely view myself as American. I'm a straight outsider in this country, and I'm very happy about it. So when I say I'm not associating myself with our state. Like I don't have.
That's funny. Mm-hmm.
No problem with that. But anyway, I just want to set the record straight on that. I'm gonna let it continue more, but we only a few minutes in this part, but you get way more history and way more knowledge than anything you see on corporate media, in print media as well. And those same partisan hacks pretending to be journalists, they mock the idea that Tucker is a journalist when Tucker is delivering gold to us right now with this interview with Putin. The fact that Putin called him out for wanting to be CIA, gold. The fact that Putin called him out for China, gold. That's good because Tucker is doing an active journalism, which is rare in the West. Despite how we feel about it, we just got to call it what it is. Let's continue.
Peaceful settlement.
Никто не вспоминает.
They just threw it in the stove right away, and nobody recalls that. I don't know if the U.S. know anything about the agreement between the opposition and the authorities and its three guarantors who, instead of bringing this whole situation back in the political field, supported the coup. Although it was meaningless, believe me, because President Yanukovych agreed to all conditions. He was ready to hold an early election, which he had no chance of winning, frankly speaking. Everyone knew that. Then why the coup? Why the victims? Why threatening Crimea? Why launching an operation in Donbass? This I do not understand. That is exactly what
the operation in the Donbass, the fact that 14,000 plus Russian Ukrainians, ethnic Russian Ukrainians, was killed by their own government is a fact that is never covered in the media. They pretend this war started when Russia invaded Ukraine. You can make the argument that Russia got involved in a civil conflict. This is gold. I'll let it continue. You guys see how educational this is? It's
interesting. He said about the election. Doesn't make any sense though. Why would he? He's right. Why would he start a coup? I mean they were misguided. He said he would have, according to Mr. Putin, he would have lost Yanukovych, the president at that time, the Ukraine president. He would have lost the election, according to him. So he's saying, why would they? It's a good question. Why would he start a coup? So that doesn't make any sense either. Yeah. Unless that's really, that could be misleading, actually, what he's saying. I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe they would have won the election. They wouldn't have, he would have still won the election. So, I'm thinking that, because that doesn't make any sense. And the Ukraine president, he probably would have won the election. I mean, but at that time, so why would why would you start the coup? You start a coup. Why would you overthrow him if your side's going to win the election? That doesn't make any sense. I don't know if what he's saying is true or not. Mr. Putin saying, I don't know.
Great, let's continue.
The miscalculation is CIA did its job to complete the coup. I think one of the deputy secretaries of state said that it cost a large sum of money, almost 5 billion. But the political mistake was colossal. Why would they have to do that? All this could have been done legally, without victims, without military action, without losing Crimea. We would have never considered to even lift a finger if it hadn't been for the bloody developments on Maidan. Because we agreed with the fact that after the collapse of the Soviet Union, our borders should be along the borders of former Union's republics. We agreed to that. But we never agreed to NATO's expansion, and moreover, we never agreed that Ukraine would be in NATO.
No, I don't agree with that. He's right about that, folks. The problem is so after that there was a push for Ukraine to be in NATO. That's the problem. I mean, that was a big problem.
We did not agree to NATO bases there without any discussion with us. For decades, we kept asking, don't do this, don't do that.
Ну, во-первых,
And what triggered the latest events? Firstly, the current Ukrainian leadership declared that it would not implement the Minsk agreements, which had been signed, as you know, after the events of 2014 in Minsk, where the plan of peaceful settlement in Donbass was set forth.
Exactly, folks. This is what the thing. This all the media, so-called media, ignores this. The Minsk agreement, and there was another peace agreement in 2022 before the war. So all this wouldn't have happened. I mean, all these people wouldn't have died because of if they had implemented these peace agreements. I mean, but the Minsk agreement is a big one. I mean, they would have. If there wouldn't been an invasion, I don't know if he wouldn't have. I agreed. He wouldn't have still invade. He wouldn't have invaded if there was, if they implemented an agreement, agreed to it. I mean, like, why would he? Like he knows this is a tough war for Putin, although he's winning, or it's kind of a stalemate now. But this is a tough war, though. Still, I mean, it's kind of a stalemate, but lots of lives lost on both sides. So why would you? I mean, why would he gain who would gain anything to taking over Ukraine? I mean, the so-called territories he's talking about. I mean, Crimea. Well, he already has Crimea, but the Donbass. I mean, but the whole Kiev, the whole area, he wouldn't really gain. I mean, like, it would have been very. First of all, a lot. If they took over Ukraine. No, the West wouldn't allow it. It would have been World War III, so he would have risked World War III. I mean, right there. I mean,
But no, the current Ukrainian leadership, foreign minister, all other officials, and then president himself said that they don't like anything about the Minsk agreements. In other words, they were not.
the backstory of that is I heard that he's forced by the Nazis. Zelensky's been influenced by the Nazis. I mean, I think they're threatened to kill him, to kill Zelensky, so that's why he's been threatened by them. So that's why he's not, that's why he didn't implement it. And he's like they're kind of running his government, the Nazis, in a way.
Going to implement it.
прямо сказали, что подписывают.
A year or a year and a half ago, former leaders of Germany and France said openly to the whole world
Это соглашение Минска.
that they indeed signed the Minsk agreements, but they never intended to implement them. They simply led us by the nose.
Was there
Yeah.
anyone?
This information I cannot stress enough. You will never get in mainstream corporate media as a mock Tug Carlson for being a fake journalist. This is why they would never have him on. This is why they would never interview him, because they completely ignored the Minsk Accords and everything that led up to this. But
Yeah.
let's continue. This is great stuff. I hope you guys enjoy.
Exactly.
Let's continue.
Anyone for you to talk to? Did you call a U.S. President, Secretary of State, and say, if you keep militarizing Ukraine with NATO forces, this is going to be we're going to act?
Мы постоянно об этом говорим. Мы постоянно об этом говорим. Мы обращались
We talked about this all the time. We addressed the United States and European countries' leadership to stop these developments immediately, to implement the Minsk agreements. Frankly speaking, I didn't know how we were going to do this, but I was ready to implement them. These agreements were complicated for Ukraine. They included lots lots of elements of those Donbas territories' independence. That's true. However, I was absolutely confident, and I'm saying this to you now. I honestly believe that if we managed to convince the residents of Donbas, and we had to work hard to convince them to return to the Ukrainian statehood, then gradually the wounds would start to heal. When this part of territory reintegrated itself into common social environment, when the pensions and social benefits were paid again, all the pieces would gradually fall into place. No, nobody wanted that. Everybody wanted to resolve the issue by military force
I'm
only.
loving this.
Yeah.
But we could not let that happen. And the situation got to the point when the Ukrainian side announced, no, we will not do anything. They also started preparing for military action. It was they who started the war in 2014.
It is they who
Wow.
started the war in 2014. Exactly what we've been telling you guys on RBN since this has started. This interview is absolutely devastating to the West. This interview just absolutely silenced and fucking destroyed every single neocon, anti-Russia
Yeah.
warmonger.
Mm-hmm.
And this interview's not going away. Hold up. Let's see what the number. I saw earlier that
See,
Tucker
all
had
these-
like 15.
All this stuff is facts, folks. So people will say that, the media will say that there's in Putin's all propaganda and TYT. And even I watched Global News clip from last week. They're saying that Putin did all propaganda on his on the interview. I'm sure he did propaganda a little bit, but this is all fact though. What he's saying here about what happened is fact, folks. Pretty much is fact. They could verify this, not just him saying it. All the other sources, and they could verify what he's saying. So he's actually not making up shit. I mean,
15 million views in like only like a few seconds. I mean, only a few minutes. Let's see. What is that right now? Oh, Jesus Christ. 38 million impressions on Twitter alone. Once again, not fucking YouTube and everything else. So this interview is going nowhere. In fact, as people listen to this, now people like, bro, you got people gonna start sharing it. People in China gonna start sharing it. You're gonna have people in Ukraine probably gonna see it because their government fear-mongering over it. You're gonna have people in the global south sees it, they're gonna see it. You're gonna have people in Brazil see it. Everyone's gonna see this shit. People in the UK gonna see it. All these people all the NATO leftists are gonna see this. Everyone who was NATO left, their politics was destroyed and their credibility ruined over the last few years because they look like asses right now. I can't wait to, I'm still unpacking this interview with you guys. I can't wait to see the global ramifications of this. I may do a segment live at the end of this where we may look at some reaction because it's still a baby fresh news story here. This interview, it dropped like maybe 2-3 hours before my stream. So this is gonna be, I may be over optimistic is one of the things that is my flaw. I tend to be over optimistic about stuff. You know what I mean? But I do think this is going to be huge. Because
I'm gonna photo a bit, folks.
liberal media almost buried themselves. They dug their own grave with how they hyped this up. The way they was freaking out about this interview made it so even their own viewers are expecting them to respond in some way. Like, you can't say that this is going to be the worst interview ever, this is so dangerous, and then you don't cover it at all. Anyway, let's continue. I didn't get to more clips. We already an hour in. If you guys don't know, Nick and I usually an hour and 90 minutes. But this is a single topic video, so I'm going to just keep going until I finish all the clips on Hotspot. Because Hotspot cut all the most significant parts, I believe, from this. So I'm going to stay until the topic is done. Make sure you guys like and share the stream. We almost at 1,000 live viewers right now across.
I'm gonna forward a bit. I'm gonna forward it a little bit. I'm not gonna stay on this long. I'm gonna forward a little bit. I'm gonna stay
Get
on
to that
this.
one. I want to stay on NATO. But we watch the Putin Trudeau clip next.
Yeah, I want to see that.
Hold on. Let's see if I can find this other tweet before I get to this video.
What he's doing? Is it?
Yeah, this is what before I get to the video, this is what Aaron Mate said. Yeah,
I'm gonna forward this. What's he talking about?
Who exterminated Poles, Jews, and Russians.
He's talking about a Nazi in Canada. I'm not gonna forward that, folks. No, they're talking about the Nazis in Canada. I think that's it. Let me see. That's the end of it. And let's see here.
Standing ovation to the actual Waffen SS Nazi.
Yeah, I know that. So this is all just the Canadian Parliament. That's it. I'm not gonna go anymore, folks. So, anyways, folks. That's a big story. Everybody knows about that. It's kind of embarrassing to Canada. But there's nothing really. That's the main thing about wanting to get about what happened in Ukraine, about the peace agreements that was ignored. The Minsk Accord, that's what I wanted to get at, what happened, and then NATO, expanding NATO, he talked about that, and the peace agreements, and the coup, that's what I want to really hear about. But he gets a good breakdown of this, Nick does, and it's interesting enough, that's a bonus. He did a bonus on China, on the anti-China war propaganda the West does. Shit. Okay, folks, I'm gonna. When you think of this, folks, right? You could add your comments and whatever if you want. But he breaks down it's pretty good. It's not what you think it is. It's not that bad. It's not like he chummies up to Putin. Know what the media says. This is from last week. So this is my thing on it, breakdown on it. Nick is absolutely right. He does a great breakdown of it, of the interview, and perfect breakdown of it. And I thank you, brother, doing a great breakdown of it. And certain things the media they're not going to tell you in the media. Nobody mentioned the Minsk agreement. I mean, the mainstream media doesn't mention that. These peace agreements and what's happening. And it's all about war. They're pushing war, the mainstream media, every time. And talk about money going to Ukraine. Every day there's money. Even money to make eventually like supporting like advocating for World War III in a way. You want to continue the war. I mean, is it worth in total annihilation for one country? It's a good question. Anyways, folks, I'm gonna end this. And I'm out.